Hey guys. Alright, so I've just gotten a job where from the Vactube where I'm going to be drawing one of the new people into a Star Warsified version of their avatar. In this case, the character is Nightcrawler from the X-Men. So we're going to Star Warsify Nightcrawler. And as we're just working on a look, this isn't going to be a dynamic pose or anything, so we're just going to start with pretty much a scribble. So we got a basic shape of the head. He's kind of thinner. He's got a very thin build, like a swimmer's build. Doesn't have a big neck. Keep his neck fairly thin. He's kind of like a Spider-Man build. Okay. Spine. Ribs. Torso. Now, with this, it doesn't have to be exact. I'm not going for that because I need to nail down the look of this character. The thing is about adapting something from one thing to another is you have to have the core of each character that you're doing, plus the aspects of whatever it is you're integrating. It's a little cold, so I got my heater going. Yeah, give him some pretty standout love handles. And I kind of work with proportion as I go, making little corrections while everything's nice and rough. And he's a slim build, so we got to keep his hips slim. Okay, so hips, hip bones. Now the image I mentioned in the chat, I have formulating in my head, I'm going to be doing on an actual sheet of comic book paper. So the image I have in my head is very comic booky. And when I mentioned the prologue, and I'm bending this to the prologue, is the Star Wars fan series I'm working on and I'm writing. And the idea for that, I haven't asked anybody officially in any capacity yet. It's all just in my head and being put into a script and drawings and such, of which I've already started. So I gotta get used to talking while I'm drawing, so forgive me if I go quiet for a minute here and there. I'm just not used to talking while physically drawing. All right, so the prologue I mentioned is the opening story, setting up the series to follow up afterwards. And I have no idea how long it'll run time-wise. I'm just writing it now. But the crew in the story, the crew of the Vactube, at the beginning have been summoned to Alderaan. So this takes place right in the middle of A New Hope. The crew of the Vactube, as you can see there, X-Wing with the Mandalorian Daryl the Derelict, and you can barely see in red. Pointing out the window is Arlena. Then you've got Arwen in green, and standing there holding on to the oh shit handle is Fat Steven. They have been tasked by Senator Bail Organa, who post the ending of Revenge of the Sith, seeing what happened at the temple, knew that there were some younglings out and about, so they started a program called The Last Children of Alderaan. These were all potentials. And they knew that they'd found out about the Death Star. The Death Star was coming, and it's hours away from showing up at Alderaan. The Empire has found out about the plan, but hasn't attached anything to Organa. Now, so the team has been told to get the last children of Alderaan, and it's essentially a class of all Force potentials. They're all Force-sensitive kids, all Force-sensitive younglings, and they have to get them off-world, evacuate them as far away from the Empire as possible, so because they'll be taken and turned into Inquisitors and stuff like that, as we've seen play out already in the EU as well as current DST. So the crew get this group of like 20 kids, 20, 25, like a classroom size, standard class size, 25, 30 kids, let's say. 20 to 30 kids. Humans and aliens. There's a pair of Wookiees. There's a Rhodian. There's a bunch. Okay, there's a nice wide variety. Anyway, the Empire knows about this plan and has hired a government sanction. Sorry, not a government sanction. A imperial sanctioned bounty hunter who doesn't work. He used to work for the guild, now works for the Empire, who has his own squad of specialized stormtroopers, and they do all sorts of dirty work. In this case, this mission is up for these guys to go and capture these younglings. So they're being chased. So the story starts with them fleeing Alderaan aboard the Vactube ship, which essentially is a freighter, like a YT-1300, a Millennium Falcon sized B-wing. It just upscaled. So that cockpit is inside this giant sized B-wing that X-wing is piloting, and this is their ship, so they can do all sorts of stuff. And it's essentially the equivalent of an oversized fighter of its type. It's got all those capabilities, just supersized. For the fun of it, why not? Anyway, so they take off, and they're in pursuit, and they have to evade. They eventually lose the bounty hunter after a great escape, because that's where the story opens. The crawl starts, informs you of those details, and then boom, it's the chase, and it's kind of like Obi-Wan being chased by Jango. But in this case, it's a little bit of a bigger fight and a greater escape. So, and they'll take off. But anyway, so without spilling any more details, these guys, the crew, have all their abilities and whatever, and they end up getting them to a safe place. So now I'm adding a new character to this story, so I'm kind of formulating this in my head as I go. So I gotta figure how much of Nightcrawler needs to be in this story, or in this character, and how much Star Wars needs to be in Nightcrawler. Yes, I know, I'm getting to the toes. Alright, so we gotta figure out what this guy's special ability is. I'm sitting there going, yeah, the team could use a Force user, but I don't want to overdo it. I think it would be okay. So how's about, he's not a Jedi. We'll make him a Force user, untrained, or minimal training at best by like, say, another adept. Someone who is he's just above a Padawan. Kind of like, if there was more ranks, he's had some training. But he's not really all that adept. So instead of using a lightsaber, some story is why he lost it. Don't know why. We'll figure that out later on. However, so let's give him a vibro sword, because that will still work really, really well with Nightcrawler, because he's got that swashbuckling accent, aspect to him. So let's play with that. All right, so now we're gonna tighten. I don't need that pencil. I need this one. 6H. All right. It's a little hard, but we're still roughing everything in. All right. I really liked his swashbuckling stuff, so we're gonna play up on that. We're really gonna play up on that here. So we're gonna give him Star Warsy boots. In the form of that swashbuckling. Well, first let's tighten up his physique a little bit. So I'm going to accentuate the calves because he's exceptionally acrobatic, this character. Can't forget the back toes. I've never actually drawn Nightcrawler before, so and I think when, I can't remember who the artist was, I think it might have been Dave Cockrum. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me if anybody knows. That when that mini-series came out in the 80s, in the comics, where Nightcrawler, actually, I never got to read that one, but I remember it vividly, like the ads for it in other issues. With him all done up being the pirate swashbuckler and stuff, flying around on a boat, leaping around, sword flying. So I'm going to try to recapture that feeling with this. This is a little long, so we gotta shorten this up or thicken them a little bit. Can't make those too big. Okay, let's use a little bit of this. There's the shadows, light sources up here. Kurt's always kind of had wavy hair, not a very high forehead. These parts usually help go with that look, because he, you know, even though he's a little saint, he does have a bit of a devilish look. Hence, part of his original design being his hair, kind of giving a, yeah, so wild and wavy. Kind of poofy a little bit. Thin build, thin 6-pack. Meeting up in that. Okay, so here's gonna be for Buckle. Buckle. He needs to be flexible. Okay, well, let's block in those boots. We're gonna rest on the edge of his top of his calves. Let's give it a split. Five metal cabochons. Boing. All right. So one of the things I'm thinking about here is how do I express Nightcrawler completely? There is the option of making his face a mask. He's going to need... Okay, you need a vest. shoulder pad armor of some sort. I don't want that to be the only place for those Cobra show. So this version of Nightcrawler doesn't teleport. He's just really, really fast and extremely flexible. Agile. He can jump around, so he gets that teleportation effect. Just from his actions alone. Teleportation is not a normal thing in the Star Wars universe, so I'm not gonna graft it here for this version of the character. Okay, we have the start. Cabochons remind me a little bit of the Age of Apocalypse comics with Magneto. They had that neck piece. All the characters had like that neck piece with its cabochons on it. So I guess that's a slight nod to that. All right, we're gonna pause it there, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one. See how far we get. Laters, gang. Bye.